ready to take the stage now. She is known to others as the Coffee and Conversation Counsellor. Kerri Gaskin is an award-winning entrepreneur, therapist, and volunteer. A Canadian certified counselor and licensed counseling therapist who holds a Master of Arts in Counseling Psychology. A specialist in equine-assisted psychotherapy, compassion fatigue, and vicarious trauma, as well as a host of other important certifications. With a special interest in women's and girls' issues, Kerri works with women in life transitions as they build resiliency and coping skills, and offers programs to encourage girls and women to meet the challenges of peer and societal pressures with skills of resilience, positive self-talk, and self-compassion. Kerri is passionate about her coffee, yes, girl, and is rarely found without a freshly brewed dark roast close at hand. Please welcome to the stage Kerri Gaskin with her talk, But What If They Find Out? Challenging the monster that is Impostor Syndrome.
Thank you. Wow. So, here we are. I'm going to just take a moment and appreciate the speakers who have come before. This has been an extraordinary morning so far, so thank you all so much. And, that leading with love that's been the theme today, extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary. But what if they find out? Inadequate, fraudulent, inferior, fake, lucky. I'm not talking about that knockoff Birkin bag that you bought on your last vacation. Definitely not that. But I'm speaking about those pejorative adjectives that we all use on ourselves. Have you used them? Because I know I have. I have definitely used them. And man, they suck. They hurt. They're painful. When I was a little girl, I wasn't scared of the dark. I wasn't scared of the boogeyman. I wasn't scared of whatever might be underneath my bed. No, I was scared of something much, much more frightening. You see, I was raised in a small community. We used to joke that there were about 1,000 in the population, including the pigs, the chickens, the cows, and the horses. Now, I was a big fish in a small pond. This was not maybe necessarily accurate around the population, but it was not cosmopolitan. And I was that big fish. I was in everything. I was in junior achievement, choir, glee club, you name it, drama, yearbook. I did everything. I was on tour with a theater company. I was on a radio show, a TV show. I was on a record, like vinyl record, an actual vinyl record. I know I'm dating myself with that, but I did all of those things. I was a joiner. I was a doer. I was destined for greatness. At least that's what everybody told me. And full disclosure, at 6 years old, I wanted to be a ballet teacher, doctor, missionary who lived on a houseboat. So I definitely had big dreams. And everybody said I would achieve those dreams. They all said I could do that I was so confident I could do anything. I was talented. I was gifted. I was described as the golden child. But deep down inside, I was paralyzed with fear. I was so afraid that eventually they would find out, that they would figure out that this was nothing but a big facade. You see, I wasn't scared of the normal childhood things like the boogeyman, the dark, the monster under the bed. No, what I was afraid of was not being enough. What if I'm not as competent as everyone thinks? What if it's true? What if all of those things that everyone believes about me are false? They would have a different opinion of me. And that monster that lurked in my childhood followed me. It followed me. When I made Dean's List in my undergrad, in my master's degree, it was because I took easy degrees. When I got a scholarship to Harvard Law, it was a fluke. They were being proactive about getting women into the program. When I landed the job as an artistic director of a new musical 1 year out of my undergrad, well, it's probably because they couldn't afford anyone better. When I landed a teaching gig, teaching at the American University of Paris, teaching beside the Eiffel Tower, I faked my interview in another language really well. You see how it shows up? It's insidious. And the thing is, I didn't know it then, but I was experiencing imposter phenomenon. And it had its clutches on me, on my heart, and on my soul. So what does it look like? What does that monster really, truly look like? Does it show up with gnashing teeth and ripping claws? Does it show up in your closet under your bed? No. No, my friends, it is much more subtle. It's insidious because it appears internally. It lives here. It lives deep within us. And for some people, sure, imposter syndrome can fuel their motivation, can light that fire underneath them and get them going. But for most of us, it shows up as a vicious cycle of paralyzing anxiety. That's how it showed up for me. You know, you might find yourself working harder, preparing more, making sure that nobody ever finds out that, you know what, you really don't know what you're doing. And this sets up that cycle. It sets it up where you think, you truly believe that the only reason that you sailed through that exam, that you nailed that job interview is because you did an all-nighter. It has nothing to do with your skills. And the problem with imposter syndrome is that those successes, the lineup of awards on your mantelpiece, the accolades, do nothing to help you internalize your success. The more you accomplish, the more you feel like that fraud. And it is that vicious cycle. So instead of seeing your wins as the product of your personal skill, your gifts, your talents, your hard work, you see them as a combination of pure dumb luck, timing, nepotism. And just like I did, you fear. You live in that fear that it's only a matter of time before you're found out. And then everyone will realize the dirty truth behind your supposed successes. And it's terrifying because your cover will be blown and everyone will know that you're a fraud, a fake, an imposter. And you can't bear that. And that monster, it looms larger and larger. Do you find yourself agonizing over the smallest flaws in your performance? Do you catch yourself being sensitive to even the most constructive criticism and unable to internalize positive feedback about your success? Do you feel that you're, going to be found out as that phony? Do you find yourself constantly self-sabotaging, downplaying your own expertise, even in areas where you are the acclaimed and acknowledged expert? Back to that vicious cycle of anxiety. Am I going to do it? Are they going to find out? And then relief when nobody figures it out. That shadow of that monster just creeping over your shoulder on the daily. So who does it impact? Well, we've already identified that it impacts me. Probably a whole lot of you. It is estimated that 70% of us, 70%, 7 out of 10. So I think we said that there was about 100 people watching virtually. So 70 of you will experience imposter syndrome at some point in your careers. 70. My friends, the ugly truth is imposter syndrome affects everyone. No matter your social status, no matter your educational background, your skill set, you can fall prey to it. And it is not discussed, right? It's not discussed because the element of shame and fear that goes along with us keeps the sufferers of imposter syndrome silenced, muzzled, because we are so darned afraid of someone finding out. However, When that one person speaks up, hundreds more breathe a sigh of relief. I thought it was just me. And unfortunately, corporate culture exacerbates this for women. I read a recent study from Lean In that said that, I'm just going to find my note for the actual number because I don't want to misquote. Right. 38%. Only 38% of senior management level positions in North America are held by women. Only 38%. Now, correct me if my math is wrong, but I think we actually make up more of the population than that. Substantially more. But how it shows up. I read the story of Maureen Zappala. Now, I don't know if you've heard of her. Maureen Zappala is a former propulsion engineer, a literal rocket scientist. Okay? But despite working at NASA for decades, she experienced crippling imposter phenomenon. She described in her own words in an interview with BBC Radio, and I'm going to quote this because this is brilliant. For years I thought that NASA only hired me because they needed women. I felt underqualified and in over my head. I worked long hours to try to prove myself. I was too afraid to ask for help because I thought, if I'm really as smart as they think I am, I shouldn't need the help, and I should be able to figure this out on my own. I refused to objectively look at the data that said I was qualified. And she was a rocket scientist at NASA. I'm just a therapist from Hillsborough, Albert County. Yikes. You know, that never-ending doubt does so much damage, both professionally and personally, because it starts to eat into our personal lives, and it shows up in some really specific ways. So let's take a moment. Let's take a moment and talk about who this impacts. Who does it impact? Well, it shouldn't surprise anyone that perfectionists are hit by imposter syndrome, right? This person's primary focus is about how something is done. Doesn't matter if she did it flawlessly 99 times. If that 100th time has one tiny imperfection, she's a failure. That is equivalent to complete and utter failure. Success is not satisfying to the perfectionist because she believes that she could have and should have done it better. Now, the perfectionist is the queen of shoulding on herself. She sets those excessively high goals that are absolutely impossible to reach, and she experiences that intense self-doubt about measuring up. But by whose standard? Whose measure? Who is setting that bar? She is. Okay. Recognize this? Right? Superman, Superwoman, Supergirl. That's right. Superwoman, Supergirl experiences imposter syndrome. Measuring worth based on how many chainsaws you can juggle, right? And then beating yourself up for not keeping all of them running. Family, friends, social life, household chores, volunteer time, exercise, Pinterest momming. That's our Superwoman. And, you know, she lives for those dubious compliments such as, you know, I just don't know how you do it. When do you have time for sleep? The thing is, friends, she doesn't. The Superwoman doesn't sleep. She doesn't practice self-care. She has let her hobbies, her passions, her interests, her love life fall to the side because she's so afraid, so terribly afraid that they'll find out, and she needs to prove her worth. She's wearing her fatigue. She's wearing the lack of downtime, the utter exhaustion, like some sort of badge of honor. Guilty. Did you get straight A's? Did you get every gold star when you were in elementary school? Did you do everything and anything and excel at it with very little effort? Did everyone tell you that you were going to be successful no matter what you did because you're the smart one? You're the golden child, right? And do you find yourself avoiding challenges because it's just too uncomfortable to try something that you might fail at? When I was in the 7th grade, we moved to a new town, a new school, and all my friends were trying out for soccer. Now, I had never played soccer in my entire life, and I desperately wanted to be on the soccer team with all my friends. But I didn't know how. And so now, 30-something years later, I intensely regret that I allowed my fear to prevent me from trying something new. If that's you, you're the natural genius. You measure your competence with how quickly and how easily tasks are performed. You should be able to do it like that. And if you can't, then you've failed. If you can't do it the first time, you're a failure. Now, the expert believes that she can never know enough. She's that knowledge broker, right? She's that one who's gathering CEUs, PD days, special skills, extra certifications that have nothing to do with her actual job, right? She's collecting those like I collected Smurf figurines and stickers in my 80s photo albums. And what does that give her? A piece of paper, more exhaustion. And if it's you, let me ask you, if your dream job was posted tomorrow, and Sylvie's probably got it posted, right? If your dream job was posted tomorrow, would you apply? Or would you check through every single line item to make sure that there was not one piece of it that you didn't meet, not one criteria that you fell short of? The expert does that. Their desire to succeed drives them. And even if they've been at their job for a decade, 2 decades, they still feel like, I'm not good enough. Why are you asking me? Ask someone who actually knows. Maybe I should take a PD on that. Yeah? You might be the expert. So what does this all mean? What does that all mean? Well, it means that we now know what the monster looks like. We know who it impacts, and we know how it shows up. We know who it most scares. But how do we tame it? Like, what on earth do we do about it? We know it's there, but how do we change things? We start by talking about it. We talk. Simply articulating our feelings, simply explaining our experience can be extremely freeing. It can be cathartic. And like I said before, there's going to be those people who breathe that sigh of relief because suddenly they're not the only one. It's not just me. We talk about it. And we remember that feelings, my friends, feelings are not facts. I can feel all day long that I'm 25 years old, 5'10", and have the body of a Victoria's Secret supermodel. That don't make it a fact. Feelings are not facts. There'll be times. There will definitely be times when you feel stupid. I've felt it. We've all felt it. But it doesn't mean that you are stupid. Recognize when it is natural to feel like an imposter. There's going to be times when it's totally appropriate to feel like an imposter. If you're one of the first or few people who look or sound like you do in your workplace or in your field, you're probably going to feel a little bit like you don't fit in. And if you are among the first, you may feel like an added pressure to represent. Many years ago, I was getting my captain's ticket for boats, for 50-ton boats. Let me tell you, there are not many 27-year-old women out there getting a captain's ticket for 50-ton boats. I felt like an imposter, and I felt that pressure to represent, to be that woman, that girl who showed up and did it for all the other girls who were going to come behind me. That's a heck of a lot of pressure. So recognize that it's pretty natural to feel that way in those moments and normalize it. Understand that that is a normal experience and that that is absolutely okay. It's important too to change our perspectives, right? A perspective change does a world of good. My grandfather used to tell me that a change was as good as a rest. So instead of beating ourselves up for being human, because I hate to tell you, but we all are human and we are all perfectly imperfect. And that's part of what makes us incredible and beautiful and spectacular. Instead of beating ourselves up for being human and making an occasional mistake, do what pro athletes do. Review the highlight reel, learn from the mistake, and move on. While we're talking about pro athletes, you know what? Do what they do and visualize. Picture yourself nailing that presentation, getting the promotion you asked for, receiving that accolade, that award, and change your inner narrative. Challenge yourself to shift out of that automatic negative thought, those ants, and replace that inner narrative, that autoresponder that starts playing the negative tune as soon as something happens. Change it from, what if they find out I'm no good, to, you know what? Everyone who starts something new feels a little uncertain, and that's okay. Great phrase to remember, and that's okay. Reward yourself, right? We can live in this culture of busyness and hustle. Reward yourself. Give yourself the opportunity to be proud, to pat yourself on the back and say, you know what? I did do a good job. I did nail that presentation. I did, help my colleague out. Pat yourself on the back. And as much as we really want to be authentic, and I will preach all day about the importance of being true to who you are, sometimes it is important to fake it till you make it. And by that, I mean, sometimes we just need to wing it. Sometimes we have to take that leap of faith and learn as we go. And that is a skill. That's an incredible skill that we have, to be able to learn on the fly. So expecting to know everything from the beginning, expecting to know everything ever, is kind of like trying to get to the end of the internet. You can't do it. It's impossible, right? You just can't do it. So then we embrace that learning mindset. There's something really powerful and empowering about being a beginner, because it is perfectly acceptable and expected that you'll ask questions, that you'll ask for help, that you won't know it all. So even, 2 decades, 3 decades into your career, embrace that beginner's mindset and start to learn that new skill. It's amazing what can happen when we ask for help, when we say, you know what? I don't know. And that's okay. A common hashtag that has circulated social media over the last few years has been "comparison is the thief of joy." And that has been attributed to everyone from Teddy Roosevelt to Mark Twain. Okay? Doesn't matter who said it, it's true. Comparison is the thief of joy. So stop comparing yourself to others. Your bank account's probably never going to look like Jeff Bezos' bank account. Mine won't. Your name's probably not going to be as recognizable as Oprah's. That's okay. You are your own person. And I'm always telling my kids, there's always going to be someone out there who's better than you at this, who's better than you at that, who's smarter at you in this area. And there's times that you're going to be better than them and smarter than them. And that's okay. We can't be all things at all times to all people. And we are entitled to grow at our own pace. We are absolutely entitled for that. So show yourself some love. Show yourself some respect for your capabilities and your capacity. We don't all start at the same level. And expecting that we should start here, while it might be impressive, gives us nowhere to go and nowhere to grow. So take the time. And you know what? Don't allow that latest post from the Instagram influencer, post from your high school rival on social media. the biography of that really brilliant entrepreneur on LinkedIn. Don't allow those things to color your perspective of who you are, to make you feel like you're not enough, because you are. By the very merit of being a living, breathing human being, you are enough. You have the right to feel respect, self-respect, dignity, compassion. So I encourage my clients, and I'm going to encourage all of you, at the end of your day, take your journal. And I do encourage journaling. It's like Therapist 101, get a journal. At the end of the day, grab your journal and write down 3 things. Write down 3 moments of joy. Write down 3 victories for the day. Write down 3 things that you're proud of about you. And at the end of a month, you're going to have 90 things to celebrate. You will have 90 pockets of joy, 90 positives about you. So pay attention. Pay attention to your feelings. Pay attention to your emotional and physical needs. Validate your experience. Normalize the needs that you may have. This is how we're going to tame this beast. And the most important thing, and the thing upon which I hang my hat as a therapist, is to practice radical self-compassion. And when I say radical, I'm talking about root, getting back to the roots. When we were little kids, we fully lived. We lived in our bodies. We lived in the moment. We felt the wind in our hair when we were swinging on swings. We enjoyed the cold sprinkler water. Yes, we drank out of hoses when I was a kid, right? We were in the moment. We were in our bodies. We fully embraced food, or if you're my 5-year-old, didn't embrace food, but we were fully and completely engaged in the world. We laughed. We played. We were in our bodies and in the moment. And if we want to really battle imposter syndrome, if we really want to be good at being true to us, we need to practice that radical self-compassion, because if we're not taking care of ourselves, if we're not in tune with our bodies, our minds, our spirits, we simply cannot be in tune with these other things. And the thing is, practicing self-compassion and self-care is not a selfish act. It is, in fact, a radical piece of caring for others. Because if we can't take care of ourselves, how on earth can we take care of other people? So own your awesome. You know, it's time. Every one of us is unique. We have certain things that only we as individuals can offer the world. You know, I often say that I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I'm a lot of folks' cup of coffee. And that's okay. Own your awesome. You may not have the same skill set as everyone else. You may not express yourself the same way as your neighbor. You may not show up the same way that your peers and colleagues do. And that's okay, because all of these things combine to create the exceptional, beautiful, spectacular human that you are, and that nobody else can be. And if you don't do it, if you don't show up as you, not as your best self, but as your favorite self, as your true self, well, nobody can do it for you. Nobody. Remember that. So now, decades later, I have returned to the same small town where I grew up. And a lot has changed. Now, a lot remains the same. The pigs, the chickens, the cows, the horses, they're all still there. But I'm different. I'm a joiner. I'm a doer. I still want to, be on this committee, be on that committee, volunteer for this thing, participate in that. But you know what? The monster has been tamed. I'm no longer afraid of that monster coming over my shoulder, sneaking out from underneath my bed. The monster has been tamed, and I just wish that all those years ago, I had only realized that the monster was me. Thank you.
Kerri Gaskin. One of the interesting things about doing a program in this room where there are so few people, and I'm trying to concentrate on that little red dot right there, is that if you're used to speaking in public, you're used to addressing the room. And there's a lot of looking around. And I felt like Kerri was looking directly at me, talking about imposter syndrome, and her little eyes, I felt like you probably felt that way too, though, right? 70% of us, imposter syndrome, amazing. Love, love, love these catchphrases. You are enough. Feelings are not facts. Embrace beginner mindset. Who ever heard of that before? That's brilliant. And whatever it is, it's okay. I love it. Thank you for that, Kerri. We have so